O'clock. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August 28th regular session of the Auburn City Council. Amy, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Kirby?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Mayor Spokely?
Here. We have one of our council members is on vacation and the other one is running a few minutes late, so he'll be joining us as we proceed. Next on our agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda this evening is Mayor's commendations, proclamations, acknowledgements. On our agenda is September Hunger Action Month proclamation. Sandy, if you want to come on up. And of course, Ken. Good to see you both. I normally try not to read these in full length, but there's a lot of good information here, so I'm going to go ahead and run down this
We
one.
also have Steve Holm from Adventist Community Services, who just walked in the door.
Perfect. Welcome, Steve. Good timing. So, City of Auburn Proclamation Hunger Action Month. There's a lot of whereases in these things, as you might know. Whereas Feeding Americans has designated the month of September as Hunger Action Month. Hunger and poverty are issues of grave concern in the United States. The state of California, Placer County, and the city of Auburn join with the Feeding America report, mapped the meal gap of 2017 based on 2015 data, identified more than 45,130, approximately 12.3%, of the individuals in Placer County as food insecure individuals. In Auburn, it is estimated there are about 5,018 individuals in the area who have incomes below poverty level. Poverty level is $20,420 for the entire for a family of three. In 2017 and as of June 30th, Auburn area food agencies have already provided groceries for 170,480 meals to 222,932 individuals, which is fantastic. The City of Auburn is committed to raising awareness of hunger needs so that the citizens, businesses, and the city can work together to alleviate hunger. The City of Auburn deems it beneficial to support all efforts to educate citizens in nutrition and to encourage healthier eating. The City of Auburn recognizes the efforts of the Auburn Interfaith Food Closet, the Auburn Salvation Army, Adventist Community Services, and Sierra Reach Ministries, who are dedicated to providing groceries to families in need. The Auburn Interfaith Food Closet and the Auburn Salvation Army will join together to host an Auburn Community Food Drive on September 16th and September 23rd to raise awareness of the needs and to assist in reducing hunger in our community. Now, therefore, I, Matt Spokely, Mayor of the City of Auburn, California, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September as Hunger Action Month and encourage all of our citizens and businesses to support the efforts of local food agencies to reduce hunger in our area. You guys have a few words you want to say? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is quite an honor to honor Hunger Action Month, and it gives us as a community a time to give back to those in need. And we talk about the 5,000 that are in our community who are at or below poverty level. Auburn area has about 46,000 people in it. This is about 10% of our community, so that's a pretty substantial amount. And about 25% of those are children under 18, and about 15% are seniors who are 65 and older. So altogether, that's about 40% of a population that really do need our help, that sometimes we think that people can't help themselves. But we're here to help them through their time of need. And one of the things that we've found is about 32% of the people only come to a food closet one time. They only find themselves in a situation where there's been an emergency, illness, or car accident, who knows? They lost their job, but they only come one time. And about 66% only come 4 times in a year's period. So you know that they are not coming depending on us. They are only coming when they absolutely need to, when they need to make their budget go to the end of the month. There's only about 5% who come every month. And generally those are people, either seniors or the homeless who just can't make it month to month. And so, you know, one of the false ideas is that we're here to serve the homeless. That is a false idea. Only in 2016, only 4% of the people we serve were homeless. And of all the agencies, all 4 agencies that we have in Auburn, this year it's up to 7.5%, so it has grown. But that's still a small minority of all the families that we're serving. So in 2016, we served 14,500 families in Auburn. That's a huge number. And of those families, there were 46,000 individuals in those families. So far this year through June, we've served 7,700 families as a group, and the individuals, almost 24,000 people. That's the first 6 months of this year. So you can see there is a great need. And so we need for you to help us, either by joining us on the food drive. You can sign up online at auburnfoodcloset.org and put together a team and pass out bags and go and pick up those bags. Or you can donate food, or you can donate money to any of the agencies, whichever one you would choose. So, and if you would like a tour of a facility, just give us a call. We'd like to tell you all about us and show you what we have. So Ken or Steve, would you like to? Ken is from the Auburn Salvation Army.
Can't stand anymore. Thank you for doing the proclamation. I know Auburn is very supportive of both the Army and the Interfaith Food Closet. We live in a great community, and one of the reasons that community is great is people like Sandy Bassett and Steve Holm choose to volunteer and choose to work and help those in need. A lot of people need to, if people who don't, like make $15 an hour, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not. At the end of the year, end of the month, you run out of food, and you got car payments, you got house payments. You can't not do those payments, and we help those people who are on the edge and who need help at the end of the month because their checks have fallen short. Thank you very much. We want a picture.
I just want to say, I'm brand new to Auburn. My wife and I finally got moved over here 2 months ago after 8 years of commuting from Amador County. We're happy to be here. There's a component to this food shortage that's really important, and that's the health issues that go with it. It costs us a lot in the long run. If we don't help these people learn how to eat better now, it's going to be a lot more expensive for us later. So I just wanted to add that in tonight. Thank you, Bill.
Can I get a picture of this?
I'll take a picture.
Cheryl's walking down.
I don't care.
Alrighty, next on our agenda is agenda approval. This is a time set aside for council members and/or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or change in the listed sequence of an agenda item. The agenda will be approved by a consensus of the council. Any changes to the agenda? Any members of the public want to make any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the agenda.
Oh, it's up to me? I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. The next item, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless persons request specific items to be pulled from the agenda, from the consent calendar. Pardon me. Any items removed from the consent calendar after the motion to approve, any items removed from the consent calendar will be heard after approval of the consent calendar. Any changes?
Item 7.
Item 7, I also had that on my list. Cheryl, anything else?
I don't, no.
No.
I'm fine.
Any members of the public want to pull an item that's on our consent calendar agenda besides item 7? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to council for a motion.
Move approval of the consent calendar minus item number 7.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Any
I felt
discussion?
my role for the evening.
Seeing none, Amy, would you mind calling roll?
Councilmember Kirby.
Aye.
Mackey.
Aye.
Mayor Spokely.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Next item on our, well, the item we pulled off was Nevada Street Pedestrian and Bike Facility Phase 1 project, award of contract. I know I had a few questions that I wanted to ask. Bill, you pulled it off. I'll let you go ahead and start if you
Well, I
don't.
wanted to know what the scope of the work was, what our budget was for it, and how it came in. I know we trifurcated the project, and I've looked at
Says
the
that
review,
right
but I
in
just
here.
want to go over it for the public.
Mayor
Go over
Spokely, council members, absolutely. Item number 7 is for the award of contract for Phase 1 of the Nevada Street bicycle and pedestrian improvements. It's for, just as background, on July 10th, I had brought a contract, well, I come back to get authorization to re-advertise the project because the project in its totality has come in over budget. So at that council meeting, we were directed to phase the project, which is what we did. So we generated a Phase 1, which is for underground utilities and some clearing and grubbing and tree removals between East Placer Street and just slightly north of McClung, which is about approximately 800 to 850 feet. Our budget for Phase 1 was, or our estimate was 576, and we received an open bids on August 10th. We received 2 bids, one at $450,000 and one at $610,737. So the lowest responsible bidder, Gay Mendez Inc., is what we are presenting to council for the award of contract, which is within our estimate and our approved budget.
And
Please.
this work that we've switched into phases now, which it sounds like it came in under what we expected, but it's going to be more expensive the total project to do it in phases, I understand it. But this project that we're doing now, even if we decide not to go forward with the bulk of the project, this is something that will benefit the area, correct?
Yes, Mayor, council members, absolutely correct. Yeah, this is going to replace some existing sewer and prepare some of the storm drain facilities that to improve that particular area. So yeah, there would be no throwaway infrastructure.
All right. So what I wanted to get.
So I have a quick follow-up. You mentioned tree removal. At our last hearing on this item, we specifically talked about taking tree removal out of the Phase 1, so we didn't end up cutting trees down if something happened with Phase 2 moving forward. Is that not what's going on here?
Mayor Spokely, maybe it was my misunderstanding. I thought when the direction, at least the notes I had, was to keep the tree removals within the area of the phase. So and there's 4 trees within that phase, which is what I identified.
So I think that's the clarification I was looking for. It was a concern of a few of us at the last hearing that we didn't want to remove a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
With the risk of Phase 2, it's an unknown still, right? We don't know if we're going to have enough money to build Phase 2 until after you get those bids in the winter.
Correct. Mayor, we could certainly remove, even with the award of contract, we could remove that scope There still might be some trimming on 2 of the trees just by virtue of the proximity to the trenching that would have to go. But we could certainly eliminate that scope item from the contract.
I don't think I mean, it sounds like the tree work is within the limits of the construction for the underground with phase one, so,
That is correct.
okay. Again, what I heard at the last hearing was a concern about cutting all the trees down for the entire length of the project without knowing for certain that phase two is actually gonna happen.
That,
So it sounds like we're okay.
Yeah.
Councilman Kirby?
If I'm not correct, we asked for you to come back with a plan for exactly to show us about what trees and where were going to be removed before it was done. So that's not exactly what this is. I don't know enough about where they are located to know how it affects the project, but it was kind of a general consensus, I thought, that we wanted to report about the trees before going forward with further work. And I'm not sure that's what's happening.
Well, again, my recollection may be a little different. Councilman Kirby, I recalled that there was quite a bit of conversation about taking all the trees with phase one, because that was the original proposal. And by limiting it just to the areas where we're actually doing phase one work, we were dramatically reducing the number of trees. So you're not touching any of the trees along the cemetery frontage?
no, the last tree that we are technically touching is right there at the intersection of McClung and Nevada Street.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I had a couple other things that I wanted to ask. Timing for phase one, did you get a schedule with the bidding process? Are you waiting on that? Do we have an idea?
Mayor, we are waiting. We are fortunate enough that the contractor that is we are awarding tonight is currently working on other sewer projects for the city of Auburn. So we're trying to put together a realistic schedule to accommodate all 3 different projects that we have going on with them. Certainly, we want to start it as soon as possible, and definitely want to finish it phase one in the next 2 to 3 months.
But with all the work they've got going on, they have the ability to get the project done in the time
Yeah.
frame you set out?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I know I asked this last time, I'm going to ask again. Do we have an understanding or better idea of what the cost is for phase two? And again, I'm looking at the incremental increase in cost to take one project and split it into 2. I think Councilman Kirby mentioned it, but do you have an idea yet on what that might cost in addition to what you've estimated?
Mayor, I do not at this time. I think once the construction season is winding down, we might be able to kind of refine our cost. One of the goals of splitting up the project into 2 phases is to award or at least advertise phase 2 during the winter to try to maximize some of the cost for construction. So I don't have it. I don't have that number quite yet. I don't want to represent something that may be completely different at this time.
With the action, Bernie, did you want to say something?
If I could jump in, Bernie Schroeder, your Director of Public Works. We have to remember one of the main drivers for doing the phasing had to do with the active transportation planning, or the program that we wanted to capitalize in. There was $800,000 that was at risk. Mm-hmm. Given the fact that we were bidding in such an active time, I believe that there's an offset for whatever additional cost in phasing the 2 projects is probably equivalent to what we're going to be able to save by being flexible. We're also looking at additional funding that is going to be available for phase 2 that we had not been able to capture when we first started the project. So that is another big plus that could help offset those costs.
And that was my next question. I just wanted to get an update because Edgar, you had mentioned to me that there was maybe 500,000 or 600,000 of additional funding through other state grants that we might be able to get our hands on. It. Any more certainty in?
Mayor,
in those funds?
the deadline for the congestion mitigation air quality funds is actually August 31st. So that is going to be this week. We have our application in there to get the additional funds. It's a very high probability that we will be getting those additional funds in my discussions with the Transportation Planning Agency. So it is going to be looking like we are going to be securing about 500,000 more.
And those funds are run through PCTPA?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just want to say yay We're $125,000 under the engineer's estimate. I think we should mention that. I mean, I'm happy about that. I hope you guys are.
Yes, we are.
And I'm sure it's because Mendez is mobilized, and they could take those costs off because they're already here doing work. That probably brought some of the costs down for them to bid the project. Is that true?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I don't know how they bid it, but I would imagine that would be a factor. Yeah.
Well, there's a huge cost of mobilization, so I would
Correct.
assume.
And they are local, and
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the council for consideration.
You pulled it.
By resolution, authorizes Director of Planning and Public Works to execute a construction contract with Gabe Mendez Incorporated for Nevada Street pedestrian and bicycle facilities Phase 1 project in the amount of $450,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Amy?
Councilmember Kirby.
Aye.
Berlant.
Aye.
Mackey.
Aye.
Mayor Spokley.
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Edgar. Good luck with the project. And if you would do me a
Thank you.
favor, once you know the schedule, could you let us know?
Ab-
We get a lot of people asking about this particular project.
Most definitely.
Okay, thank you very much. Alrighty, that wraps up our consent calendar items. Next on our agenda is public comment. This is a time provided so that the public may speak to the council on items not on the agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible. The council cannot act on items not included on the agenda. However, the items will be automatically referred to staff. Please speak your name and spell your name and provide your address if you desire. Council members shall have the option to speak for 30 seconds on items not on the agenda at this time.
May I reserve my comments till after public comment?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Yep. One second, ma'am. You'll get an opportunity in just 1 minute. Councilman Kirby.
Two things. State LAFCO has wrapped up our legislative decision pretty much, and we successfully blocked almost anything that would have interfered with LAFCO's authority. We have one bill still pending that we're working on. And what's really important is Placer in its first game of the season against a very strong opponent, squashed them. And we normally don't have a great pass. This is my 37th year of being the team doctor, and I've seen a lot of us having not great pass defenses, but against a great quarterback, we had a great defense. Did really well.
I hear the band sounded really good as well.
The band sounded great.
Thank you,
Councilman
Mr. Mayor.
Bryant.
I just want to make one comment. I realize that potentially the group that spoke to us last week may or may not say anything today, and I know we all received a letter from them as well. But I just wanted to paint a little bit of a picture since I live right along the trail area that they talked about in Auburn Ravine yesterday, driving home. The same thing that I see every day, which is a group of transients, some that we see every day and some moving through. Two of them in an argument and in a dispute. And then about 300 feet down the road at the picnic table, another couple there with their trash hanging from the tree and stuff all over the ground. I felt okay because I saw a police officer coming down Auburn Ravine that they would address this verbal discussion that was being yelled out or make the people pick up and remove the trash bag. But I was really disappointed that on my way here to this meeting, and I didn't plan to bring it up, and unfortunately I haven't given our police chief the heads up as well, but I'm not sure if the officer did anything or was able to intervene because the trash bag is still hanging from the tree right alongside the roadway in a very obvious place, and it really is disappointing that we still have this issue. And again, I realize a lot has been done proactively by our code enforcement, but I absolutely think that we need to do more. And again, that area is definitely a hotbed. Every single day there are transients there, and not just walking around minding their own business. It's trash left on the ground that either is the responsibility of us to pick up or the neighborhood, and I just don't think that's fair. And I think we need to really bring it back to a real discussion of what are we going to do. The county has really stepped up their work to maybe push this problem out, and they've had some very positive posts that the sheriff's office does of the sheriff's officers cleaning out DeWitt. We need to reevaluate, I think, what we're doing as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to just play off of that quickly here. And John, I don't know if you want to come up and say a few words just on some of the activities that I know the police department has undertaken over the past few months. I'll give it a shot, and if I miss something, you can please correct me. We're running 4 patrols in that specific area per day. We do 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and while it maybe is not quite enough, I think the continued patrols are going to be beneficial and helpful. There are also other things that code enforcement officer and I talked about when we were out doing the tour that I think are, well, they are things that she's working on. We'll bring them back to the council for consideration, but they're actually resolutions to help law enforcement with the activities. And then the last, with the patrols that they're doing out there. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, and Bob, you can also correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have a pretty aggressive clearing going on the Auburn? Starts tomorrow. So we'll have bushwhackers out there on the trail tomorrow starting their cleanup, which, as we all know, if you can get eyes on these areas where people like to hang out and sit around and cause problems, it's just a help. So anyway, that's just a quick update. It is obviously a very, very important topic, and we certainly are focused on it and will continue to stay focused on it. I did also want to mention, on a positive note, that a couple Thursdays ago we had our second downtown co-op event in downtown. It was a fantastic event. I think we had even more folks at the event this time than we did the first time, which was a huge success. I haven't heard the head count or the estimates from Maura yet, but please pass my congratulations on to Maura. She's doing a fantastic job with that event. More new faces, young people, young families enjoying themselves even on a relatively hot day out there. So great job, great event. Alrighty, with that, I'm going to go ahead and set a few ground rules here. Obviously, this is our public comment portion of the meeting. I know we've got some folks who have told me that they want to come and speak to us. We're going to hold comments to 3 minutes, and please be respectful. And we'll go ahead and open up public comment now. Sally, you're up.
Now be respectful. And what? Be respectful.
Sally always is.
Well, I'm Sally Dolly, proud to be the butt lady of Auburn, to keep Auburn beautiful. And I'm just amazed. I just love talking to the people I run into when I'm out there. And I am now, this number of butts are not getting eaten by dogs or birds. And I've been told by people that the birds will put them in their nests, use them for their nests. And it's like, oh, let's poison your kids right off the bat. And of course the fish will eat them. And so the number I have now is 857,392, and still counting. 857,392.
Sally, how long have you been doing your community project?
It'll be 3 years this October 1st.
Fantastic.
And I don't know how I'm going to quit unless I find a Butts Anonymous class.
Sally, thank you very much for all you do. So ma'am, now is the time if you wanted to come up and speak to the council.
Can I do it from here?
I
You
think
need a microphone. We can grab the mic.
we'll bring the mic to you.
Table.
That's good.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you. Front and center.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Pat.
It was great chatting with you the other day.
Thank you. It's nice talking to you, too.
Yes, my name is Pat Namany, but I do go by Patricia. I was just looking at that stage. I sang with a group called Bravo. We sang together for 12 years. The city actually was responsible for putting a plaque right by the flagpole with all of our names and the 12 years that we sang together. We were patriotic long before 9/11. and very proud of that. And that stage behind you was our very first concert. And we invited members as we sang part of their song, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Coast Guard, to please stand up and remain standing. And there was a huge applause from the audience. And I'm sad to see that the Bravo bird is what I called the eagle that my brother made, and sad to see that it is not there any longer. And I know that it sounds like it's going to be a bit of an issue trying to put it back up. And there's talk about maybe putting it in the foyer. I would certainly rather see it back up on the flagpole. But if that's not at all possible, then please tell me what you're going to do and what you think is going to be a timely fashion to do it. Because I'm not happy to just see it just disappear. I paid $1,776. That was $1,776. It was the year that the year of our Constitution. Anyway, you know my feelings.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Do we have anybody else in the audience who would like to speak to the council?
If we'd like to address this matter, if nobody else does. I'm Sam Ballard. I'll show you all of.
Sam, can you do me a favor and pull the mic up there? Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm Sam Ballard. I'm the sculptor who made this Amy, Dr. Kirby. You all know my feeling by now. I'm not very happy about the removal and the tardy nature in which this matter has been handled. I came to the United States in 1976 and joined the service of the United States Army in 1976. This Memorial Day, I stood at the memorial wall for the Vietnam soldiers in D.C., delivering a letter to a man I did not know, from a person I did not know, and cried. I cried. I was fortunate not to have to lose somebody in battle, and the people I served with, given my lack of contact, I don't know what their fate is, but I do know we have 22 soldiers a day who commit suicide, and in active duty in my unit blew his head off across the way from me. Too many of us have died, and I feel that we've been disrespected in the manner of this eagle, inasmuch as this eagle was dedicated to the fallen. I found out that it had been removed after 13 years of requesting that it be maintained. I put up for Don Whitaker at Saronic at New Airport Road a similar eagle just a year after this one was installed. We installed it in the position that these things were manufactured in the bronze and put up on the Lewis Bank of Commerce in 2001, dedicated to the fallen on Memorial Day of 2001, the same year we lost 9/11. They were manufactured in that position, so it was put on the pole in that position. We destroyed that pole at Saronics, not the eagle, the pole. He's oversized patriotic flag, as we all know. Beautiful flag at these ponds there, and my bird broke the pole. So at great expense, we put back the pole. We readdressed the issue of drag, the physics principle. Put your hand out in the window as a kid, and it blows you away. You do this, and there's no problem. Well, that position in 13 years destroyed the eagle, despite numerous requests to have it changed, even offering to do so free, and now it's down. I would really like you to consider the implication of first not addressing this matter in a timely manner, and that you would please put it back or make arrangements to put it back. I know that I will do my very utmost best to restore it to the condition that it was. I feel that you owe it to us veterans to do just that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Do we have anybody else in the audience who wants to? Sir.
I'm Pat's husband, Bob Namany. I would just like to say, because I've been listening to this entire process third hand at home, and I have heard some of the feelings that have been caused by all of this. And I just hope that any hard feelings that have been caused by any communication in the past can be put aside in favor of a calm and dispassionate consideration of the meaning of that eagle to whom it represents, and that we can move ahead in a spirit of conciliation and forget any negative feelings that have happened in the past and apologize for them. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do we have anybody else who'd like to speak to the council? Good evening.
Hello. I'm Cheryl Kisleff. It's Kiseleff. I live here in South Auburn. I spoke a couple weeks ago at the last city council meeting about the homeless and transient issue, and mentioned at that time that my husband and I and some of our neighbors were walking the Auburn Ravine Trail as a group to try to make our presence known to see if that would make a difference. A couple of things have transpired since 2 weeks ago that made me feel like the situation is spiraling down quickly. After the last meeting, that night, because it was light, we decided, there was 3 of us, we'd go down to the trail and see if ARD is cleaning up the garbage, because that was a question. So we went down to the trail and didn't even get to the bridge before a man and a woman under the bridge started screaming obscenities at us. They said we were harassing them by being there. The woman was making obscene gestures to us. She was able to do it with both hands at the same time. It sounded like she was making threats to us, so we just backed off. We just went back out. We called the police. They were very responsive. They were there quickly. I waited for them to come, waved when they pulled up so that they would know I was the one that had called, because there were some questions. Something had been said to a member by one of the members of the police department that people are complaining, but no one wants to stick around and press charges. So I thought, okay, I'm here. It's me. So they went down there. The man came out about 5 minutes later. He wandered off into another set of bushes. 5 minutes after that, a woman came out. They drove her off somewhere. She was not handcuffed. She did not appear to be getting arrested. Maybe she didn't do anything worthy of that. But in any event, they never spoke to me, which was a little disappointing. But at that point, we couldn't walk the rest of the trail because it was dark. Last Tuesday, I was out doing errands and saw the Auburn Ravine Parks truck parked there, so I thought, this is my chance to talk directly to the Parks Department and see, who do we call, what do we need to do, how can we help clean up the trash? And so I walked down the trail, and there was a dead man there. I've seen a dead body, but only in a casket. It was quite disturbing, as you can well imagine. I'm grateful that when I saw him, he was face down and I did not see his face. His skin was translucent white. I went back up to the top of the trail to call the police. I was flustered and I dialed 911 instead of Auburn PD. So I got transferred around quite a bit. And then when I finally got someone, they said that they had been notified and that help was on the way. I understand from the paper then later, a couple of days later, that the man from the Parks Department who was there actually did CPR on that man, and he has my undying respect and sympathy, because the dead man's haunting me in my dreams. He had it much worse. Brings us to today. I'm done with the trail. The trail's only a symptom of what's going on in our community. It's going on all over town. So it really was just a place for us to start to try to make a difference. I personally need a different place to fixate on now. Overlook has become the big hangout. I rode my bike past it last week to go to work and actually was nervous because there was a group of about 8 or 10 transients there, obviously up to no good. There was no one around, just me on my bicycle. Fortunately, I have an e-bike, and so I put it on turbo and sped by everything. But the next day, someone posted something on a Facebook group that I belong to, and she said, went with my family to Auburn Skate Park, Dam Overlook this evening, was shocked by the amount of people gathered across from the park who all stared you down as you drive in, smoking out of bongs, blasting music, drinking, and then a large black truck with a flag flying from the bed. The truck decided to speed through the parking lot right next to the skate park entrance. I quickly grabbed my children. Not one sign of fear or trying to conceal anything they were doing, which told me law enforcement must not be patrolling much. I should have called it in, but I'm sad to say I felt too intimidated to do so. I feel like the areas in Auburn that are safe for me to be are fewer and fewer. It's very sad. So I want to state again what I said 2 weeks ago. We're not asking you to fix this problem. There is a certain amount of the community that's willing to be involved. We just, number one, we need to stop minimizing the problem. And number two, have the support and the leadership of our city council and police departments so that we know what to do. Until I feel like there's a change here in the Auburn area, I'm sad to say that I'm going to join the throngs of people that are going to spend their money down the hill until I feel like the environment here in Auburn is safer for me and my family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to speak to the council?
Hi, good evening. My name is Robert Kisleff, Kiseleff, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again at the City Council meeting here. First off, on a positive note, I do want to say the co-op is great. I went there for the first time last week. Met neighbors, there's a good community feel, spent money there, it was great. What I do want to talk about today, and we'll be very brief on this, is in regards to the letter that we did send to City Council today. I just want to provide some context to that. There were really two key messages I wanted to make sure came across. One was we recognize that this is a complex issue, that there's, I think as Director Ruffcorn had stated to me today that it's a multifaceted issue, and we recognize that. And because of that, we did list out a number of different factors that we feel are important in any sort of planning going forward in terms of how to address this issue. And as a group of residents here that put this together, we want to make sure that those conditions are being looked at as we go through this process. Secondly, as my wife mentioned, there are some of us here in the community that really recognize this as an issue and really see the impact that's happening within the city limits now. We certainly have seen this in North Auburn for a long time, but things are getting worse here. We want to be a part of the solution. Our intent is to bring a proposal to you before the next city council meeting for an ad hoc committee to look at code enforcement and the reporting process there, and look to see how we can improve that and provide more feedback to residents that do actually use that system, and use that as a starting point, and hopefully we'll get some success here. But we do want to be part of the solution. We do look to you for guidance, but you do have the support of the community in this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak to the council?
Good evening, Mayor Spokley, thanks. Council members, thank you. First of all, Doug Cahill, Cahill, South Auburn resident. I'd like to recognize the efforts of Director Ruffcorn's staff most recently about attempting to mitigate the issues relative to the transients and the homeless folks that exist, where we're kind of focused right now on the Auburn Ravine Trail, but I want to make sure we recognize that we're probably not going to be able to enforce our way out of this, and I hope that's not the plan. I know that we heard from Mayor Spokley that there's a plan in place or under creation about looking at what we can do overall. I almost said Congressman, like Councilman Berlant, maybe in the future.
You could probably do a lot more than we're getting now. But
I tend to run around Auburn quite a bit, And I do see areas that are continue to go into decline, and the trash bags and the stuff that's left behind. My good friend from Salvation Army, I think I'm just going to start returning stuff back to him, his organization, because that's where it's all coming from, and it's up to us to now to recover it and do something with it. I think as I thought about the issue of what we'd like to see Auburn be like, and the folks who are concerned about the flag topper of the eagle, you know, we tend to forget what's precious to Auburn. And I think what you're hearing is these things that these folks are sharing are precious to Auburn. And it's not going back in time, it's just creating a time when things were right. And it's important to recognize that the folks that sent you the letter are interested in helping all they can. There's some bright, smart folks that want to commit a lot of time. One of the things that Councilman Berlant did last session, I think, is he was interested in putting together a task force. And either he did it subliminally or on purpose, he looked at all the members behind the desk. You are the task force. You're the stewards of this community, and we count on you to provide the guidance and the support and the sponsorship to do this. We want to be part of that, but we want to make sure that you tell us what can and can't happen before we come begging and say, well, we can't do that, we can't do that. So I think we want to participate to the level that the community can, and count on you to be the stewards to make sure we're going in the right direction, and you are sponsoring it with folks that have authority and decision-making ability when they get feedback and they can actually do something about it. So thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Doug. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Charles Wheeler. Call me Chuck because I don't answer to Charles. I've been a resident of Auburn for about 12 years. I'll never leave here, except in a pine box. I'm 63, I'm semi-retired. Well, I'm retired medically. I was going to be a volunteer for APD, but unfortunately my health said no. I'd like to volunteer for something good like, oh, I don't know, the ordinance people. I can ride around with ordinance and help them out in any way that I can. I've been involved in 2 altercations in this town because of the homeless. I do my laundry at Mrs. T's Laundry, right next to FedEx. I've had a guy grab me by the chest, and I've had to put him on the ground. I'm a former Marine. I don't take any guff. I now have to learn to back down because I just had fusion surgery in my neck. Every time I've had to call APD, they are there. Not for just an altercation, but for, I called on a homeless guy sleeping right on the sidewalk between Mrs. T's and FedEx in that little alcove at the time when Evie Kane is coming out. And you see kids walk and jump back. That's not right. They were there within 3 minutes. So they have to move them. The other thing is, I know a lot of people, I shop here, I shop at Grocery Outlet frequently. 2 times minimum this week, we had 2 homeless walk in and grab a bottle and walk out. I called APD, they were there. I was in there 2 days ago, and as I was there, Bob, the cashier that I know, said another theft, and I said, oh, that must be what the APD car out there is for. And they're right there at the trail. I know clear cutting that trail will help immensely. I can't chase them anymore. I'd be happy to, but I would be glad to volunteer for code enforcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak to the council? So I'm going to open this back up. Oh, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Lauren Sims, and I live in South Auburn. This is my first meeting, so I'll probably sound like a broken record with everyone else with the transient issue, but my husband and I moved here in 2005. When the economy downturned, we had to move in with family back in Southern California, but we fought our way back here because we love this town. So we've been back now almost 5 years, and I've certainly seen the decline of the community in the last just 3 years, specifically since we had our daughter. And unfortunately, I've had different circumstances where I used to love at night just to get a break from my daughter to go to CVS because it's open 24 hours. I do not feel safe to do that anymore. I've been in there several times where there's been a transient so drunk he can barely stand up, and us and a few others are almost jumping behind the pharmacy counter because he's starting to be belligerent. He's almost grabbing the cashier because the cashier is refusing to sell him any more alcohol. Another instance, I was at the CVS. I thought, well, I'll try the North Auburn CVS. So I went up there, and again, a transient tried to come in. The cashier stopped him at the door and said, we no longer serve you. And he said, I'm a paying customer. He said, that's just it. You're not a paying customer. You've stolen from us one too many times. And, he got angry. And for that reason, I have not shopped in Auburn for probably the past 2.5 years. And every time I go out and think, okay, I'll try it, go to In-N-Out Burger. There's a couple transients when you pull into the drive-thru. There's a couple transients as you're leaving the drive-thru. It's become a real big issue. And, I'm hearing all the community on the Facebook and how much they're dealing with it and the different circumstances, surrounding different things. And I think that obviously, like the Kislev said and different people have said, I don't know what the solution is to this problem. I don't think the solution is taking our business elsewhere, but the thing is, people are scared. We're scared to shop in this town, and we moved from LA and Orange County. We didn't feel scared when we first moved here. So I'm just here because I'd like to be part of the solution. Again, I don't know what that is, but I think that if we can at least work at a solution to maybe stop the amount of transients that are coming in. I'm not sure what that is either, but it's definitely getting worse. It's just from I've seen just being out in the community. That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have anybody else in the public who'd like to speak to the council this evening? All right, what I'd like to do now is bring it back to the council. I know I've got comments that I want to make to the group. Because I'm mayor, I'm going to start the comments, and then we'll go whichever direction you guys would like to go. It's been mentioned by quite a few folks that it's a complicated issue. It is absolutely a complicated issue. There's no denying that. What I find refreshing about the comments that I'm hearing last time we got together and talked about this, as well as tonight, is it's not a you go fix it, it's a hey, we want to work together to try to create the solution. Whether that's volunteer patrols or you guys calling us when you see something like you've been doing. I think the other thing I want to make sure I mention, because it's apparent to me that APD has done a fantastic job increasing patrols and responding. They realize it's a problem just like we realize it's a problem. So hopefully between groups like yours and the increased attention that APD is paying to this matter, we can make a difference. And I believe that we can. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. So the idea of doing some sort of a roundtable, workshop, whatever you want to call it, where we can all come together and share ideas. I've mentioned a couple of times that our code enforcement officer had some great ideas, and some of the sergeants on the police department shared their ideas with me. So I think bringing everybody together for that roundtable to talk about the problem and creative ways that we can help fix the problem is something that we will definitely get working on right away and get scheduled. Again, next week, the Director of Public Safety is going to be making a presentation to the council on the homeless situation, so I encourage you all to come back for that meeting. Next meeting, pardon me.
Oh.
Our next council meeting.
I'd say I didn't know about the meeting.
Pardon me.
We'll call you.
So please come back. I'm sure that John will have some great information for us at that meeting. And with that, I'm going to pass it along to Councilman Kirby.
I'll be really brief. I shop in Auburn. I think if you don't shop in Auburn, you're not paying taxes here, and we don't get the base to do the things we need to do with the money. Malls may have better security because they have more money. That's a problem. We need people to shop here, and I do it. I do run into problems now and then, as we all do. And I'm not putting down what you're running into. I know you do it, but we need people to shop here, number one. Number two, going by the Overlook and leaving without calling the police is not the solution. It's got to be called every time. I think the ad hoc committee is, I think a workshop where we can all come in and not talk about it, but talk about what we're allowed to do, what we can do, what we can't do, and how we can do better enforcement is going to be critical. We have to review our MOUs with ARD. They're the ones that are supposed to clean up the trash down. The police respond to an incident, but they're not cleaning up the trash. It's not our public works job really, because they have another job and we have an MOU with ARD. So we need to look at all of these things. This is a great town, and we need to, first of all, have a clear understanding of why we have the problem and how we might be able to fix it. If somebody is rude and in your face, they need to be approached. There are now no parole officers in the area for people to get parole. The governor, in his wisdom, if you didn't read in the paper.
Infinite.
And it hasn't been in the journal yet because they don't know about it, but it was in the B, that there will be no parole officers in this area. So this problem is not going to get better. And what we can do as a community, I think we're going to have to be very innovative. I appreciate your guys being willing to be a part of it, but I really think an open discussion where we can have presentations by code enforcement, not just next meeting and a council meeting, but sort of a free-for-all in a sense, run by the mayor so it's under control. Director Ruffcorn and others to help us with this is going to be very, very useful to find a path forward. Because it's not just getting worse for us, it's getting worse for every community. Read what is in the paper about Sacramento. You may go down there and may not see them where you shop or have a restaurant there, but it's a real problem there. It's a real problem in Roseville. And we need to come up with solutions that will fit us with an understanding of what we're legally allowed to do, which is also a problem. Thank you.
Councilmember Lamb?
I just want to add, I didn't realize that I was going to start this conversation out beforehand and that we were going to expand on it here this evening. But I think we really need to ensure that the county's involved. I had a very good conversation with one of their lieutenants who oversees the division that does the police-oriented patrolling and does the homeless. There's probably a much better name for their division. But I asked him, what's our role, what's our involvement? And I think that's an area where we could continue to do some more. Again, I think we need to reiterate the fine job that the Auburn Police Department has had. And I think Mr. Cahill spelled it out very well that this is not just an enforcement issue. And I think the county being involved with the other services that they provide, that some of these individuals might need, might already be using, and maybe aren't aware of, needs to be part of this conversation as well. But again, I go back to what I said earlier. If you drive on Auburn Ravine, there's a trash bag hanging from a tree that's a visual reminder that nothing's being done. And while it has been clear that you have said for several meetings now, and our chief has reported the good work that is going on, unfortunately, not everybody sees that. That visual reminder of the trash bag hanging from the tree is what most residents are seeing. And so I think a good open dialogue, and Mayor, I really support your idea. I don't know if I used the word task force at the previous one, but I definitely think that some kind of subgroup or committee should be formed. But I definitely like the idea of a workshop, much better, as long as we as a council or as a city leadership walk away with some bullets of what we're going to need to do. And I think we're going to need to look at budgeting something, whether it's, and I don't believe it is this, but additional officer for patrols just for this, like the sheriff has done, whether it's additional time for our code enforcement officer, whether it's additional money for cleanup efforts, or whether it's additional partnering with the county to get some of these individuals to the resources that they need, that the county does offer to them, and that is their responsibility to provide. So, Mr. Mayor, I very well support the idea of a workshop and appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Mackey.
I'll try and keep it brief. I've lived here and worked in Auburn. I had my first job in downtown Auburn 42 years ago. I love this community. Nobody loves it more than me. I can't believe that anybody could say they love it more than me. But I have seen it go through its ebbs and flows. I've never seen anything like this. I directly blame it on the legislation down at the state capitol, the lowering of penalties for people. They can just run into Home Depot and steal barbecues and not have anybody come and get them, because guess what? They don't go to jail for it anymore. That's why these transients are running into CVS and stealing stuff, because there's no penalties for it. They know they can get away with it. And letting our prisoners out of jail early, I'm sorry. I had a criminal in my family. I didn't want him out. They let him out. Don't let him out. That's the problem. Those are the problems that we're having. That's what this has come to right here. ARD has an Alcoholics Anonymous and NA meetings over there at Overlook Point. Right. And it's all isolated. So they go there, they smoke the cigarettes, and it sounds to me like they're smoking more than that. And maybe we ought to meet with ARD about not having that there anymore. I've never liked having it there because kids go to the skate park there. What if they have an AA meeting over there when the kids are at the skate park? So that's not always been my preference either. Please don't shop in Roseville. The money you spend here is going to help pay for our code enforcement. You have to remember that. I mean, shop during the day. I mean, don't take your kids with you at night into a CVS or any other store, unless you're packing a gun or something. I don't know. Just kidding, John. But my point is that we need the revenue. And if we don't have the revenue, we can't provide the services. It's just plain and simple. So I want to thank everybody that was here tonight to give us some more input. And I look forward to coming up with some solutions and working with you. You know, I really want to do that. I saw a TED Talk on Facebook yesterday that is the mayor of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and how he's handling panhandlers. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but you could Google it and get the YouTube video of it. It's very interesting what he has done. They've had a huge transient panhandling problem there, and they're working through it. So you might want to see that TED Talk. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to make one other comment about my patriotism. My father was in World War II. My uncle was in Korea. I lost a friend in Vietnam. My husband served in Vietnam. And to have somebody email this council and tell us that we're not patriotic broke my heart. And I just want you to know that I'm proud of this council. They're some of the most patriotic people I know, and I'm proud to work with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mackey. One other quick comment. The issue that we've been discussing here, the homeless problem, is one that's plaguing our country. I attended on Wednesday of last week a regional mayor's luncheon, and it's all of the cities in Sacramento County, Placer County, and the mayors all come together with their staffs to talk about problems. We spent about 40 minutes talking about the homeless situation in the city of Sacramento, city of West Sac, city of Auburn. It's not a problem unique to us. Again, the workshop, I think, will be a great opportunity for us all to share ideas and thoughts and how we might improve the situation. It's happening all across our region. It's definitely something that's getting a lot of attention. Hopefully some really good solutions will come out of this. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our only item on council business, which is city freeway signage. And I believe Councilman Kirby asked for this item to be on our agenda just as a discussion.
Yes, Mayor, I did. Thank you. Signage has been a problem that I've talked about during my term as mayor and before that and before that and before that for almost all the time I've been in this council. As you approach the city of Auburn on Highway 80, there's one Caltrans sign that says Auburn next exit. One, coming east. And it's not that visible. As you get into Auburn, every sign says Cool, Grass Valley, Placerville, Nevada City. Nothing says Auburn. not one sign. Loomis got very creative. As you drive down Highway 80, you see an overpass, which we have 4 of in our city, and a fence there so that people can't jump off the freeway into a car and ruin a lot of people's days. And on that, it says Loomis. And I would like to see us do that at both ends of town. Because obviously Caltrans allowed it, so it's see-through. You know, as you're coming west, you know, you can see right through the thing there. It'd be great to have a thing that says Auburn, and coming east the same way. So we may not get Caltrans, because we've tried before to get them to say, have a real sign that says Auburn next exit, even though we'd like them to. That would be great if we had a big green sign, both east and west, saying Auburn next exit, or next 3 exits, or something like that. But they don't. But I think this is something that I don't think it was very expensive to do. And I'm sure we could, if that were an issue, or community business people would put forth the money to do that. It looked very simple, fencing. And I'd put money for it. So I think I'd like to see Public Works and the city work towards getting something like that on our overpasses.
Which overpass?
I would
He
pick-
said at both
well,
ends.
That's a good question. I mean,
Which overpass?
well, if you actually think about it coming east, probably I'd rather have it at Newcastle overpass. Auburn, Auburn.
Yeah, because the next one would be
The next
past
one
the
is,
Auburn
right.
exit.
And then coming this way, Bell Road. It would, or if not Bell Road, then the next one, which is Forest Hill. Forest Hill would be fine.
Bowman.
Well,
Bowman.
That's,
Bowman.
well, actually, yeah, there is a Bowman overpass too, I get off, but, either one. Those are the ideas, and I think I'd just like to see that happen.
Councilmember Berlant.
I absolutely support this idea and appreciate Councilmember Kirby putting it on the agenda. I will tell you, along Interstate 10 in the desert, Palm Springs area, every city along that stretch has their own name on their overpass in different fashions. The Loomis one, in my opinion, I looked at it as I was driving down, because I drive down every single day that way, is hard to see the way they've done it. Most of the time, it's hard to see the L because it lines up with the post. But the other cities that I've seen signage where it's very clear what the city's name, Caltrans has done a very nice job of allowing it to have the look and the feel of that community. And again, if you go through Interstate 10, if you're in the Palm Springs area, every single one of those has the name. Now, I would ask us to do one more further that would probably be just as complicated. But the very first overpass over Auburn is actually the train trestle.
Right.
Yes.
And the train trestle has more graffiti than any other location probably in our community. So what a better way to not only clean up the train trestle, but also to have some type of signage along there. Now, my guess is that it would take an act of Congress to get the UP to be involved, but I would ask us, however we do this, whether it's directing our TAP staff who do so much already, that we include the railroad, because that is probably the very first place, and you could easily put Old Town right here with an arrow before it. You can very much easily have a sign that, or an arrow. So I think you could incorporate everything you're looking for in that, and again, clean up that graffiti. Because look, next time you drive through, you look up, and that's what you see coming into our community's graffiti, which goes well with our beautiful trail that we have in Auburn Ravine. But I know that's not the image that we want to portray. I'm sorry, but I would definitely ask us to include the UP in this discussion.
Just as a point, last year when I was mayor, I did meet with them. It takes more than an act of Congress. I actually had the Indian community willing to paint murals on that thing in non-graffiti paint, and they're unwilling to.
Yeah.
Their job, in order to clean it off in an environmentally safe way, they're not workable with.
No.
Well, I remember.
But I love your idea. I think it's a great idea.
Well, I remember not more than 2 years ago, a representative from the train the railroad came and spoke with us.
SB.
And he was very clear that if we needed anything, that they were there to help us and they were part of the community. And I would have to assume that that was not lip service, that UP would like to be involved. So I would definitely ask that we really push that graffiti to be cleaned up. Because I would have to assume that when we have it on the overpasses, Caltrans does that. The UP needs to be part of ensuring that their overpass is kept to that same standard. And I have had conversations prior to this being on the agenda with members of the Arts Commission, because again, I would love to see, and I don't know how you could do it, but they'd have to affix siding along their trestle, but I definitely think that there's some room there for some improvement.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Try it again.
Well, not to beat a dead horse here, but I agree that the signage coming into town from either direction is atrocious. And, you know, when you got a restaurant advertising right before the city of Auburn for Colfax, it just drives me crazy every time I drive home. And there has been some conversation that the city manager and I have been having regarding our own sign right there in Old Town and trying to gain control of that sign from the chamber. The chamber's managing it now, and every time I drive by that sign and I see an advertisement for Nevada City or something in North Auburn, that also kind of irks me. So great conversation. I'm certainly in favor of discussing the idea of fixing some better signage on some of these overcrossings. I do know in conversations with some of the council folks down in Loomis, or town folks down in Loomis, that it was quite a challenge to get Caltrans to agree to it. And in the end of the day, it was fairly expensive. But let's maybe start the dialogue, start the conversation. I think it's a great idea.
Excuse me. Well, you know, the DBA wanted to put the arch over downtown. Maybe they'd want to contribute if it said downtown Auburn. Perhaps.
Well, even things as simple as the municipal green signs that say,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
oh, we have one that just says next 3 exits Auburn. That's all it says. So I think there is room for improvement, whether it's signage on an overcrossing, signage on a railroad trestle, or other signage. I think it's all important stuff for us to talk about. All right, I'm going to actually, do I need to open this up to public comment? I'll open it up to public comment. Do we have anybody that wants to speak to the council or speak on this item? I see a couple of hands.
You guys can't come down here.
They can only do it one at a time, though. Somebody's got to man the computer up there. Go, Cody, come on up. We're waiting for you, my friend.
Good evening. I work at a certain gas station on the corner of Elm and High Street. You guys aren't so keen to it, but the most popular question we get is, how do you get back to Highway 80? And what town am I in? So anybody who drives through town has no idea where they're coming through. And Auburn's a community that we need to know exists. It needs to be on the map more than just small font.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you very much for your comments. Well, that's a longer trip down the stairs than I remember.
Thank you for waiting for me. I was intrigued by Councilman Berland's comments about the trestle and the bridge and UP's refusal to do anything about it. And it would seem to me if we had some enterprising person with a can of spray paint could just paint Old Town Auburn right there.
Just a thought.
Don't give my son any
Thank you
ideas.
for the unofficial comment there. The off-the-record comment. All right, anybody else want to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, we will close that item and move on to City Council Committee reports. Cheryl, do you want to start?
I got a few. You want to listen?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I went to the chamber board meeting. Much of the discussion was concerning the homeless situation. And I let them know that there was a group of concerned citizens who were willing to help, and we were going to have a meeting on it here at the City Council. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion going on. So Kathleen, Madam President of the Chamber was very concerned that we were just pushing them off and not giving them any support or help, not telling them where they could get services, but I assured her that they were always told where they could get services and helped to find the homeless shelter, etc. So then I left there and went to APAC, Auburn Placer Performing Arts Center, and where I'm on the board. We're still painting the building. It's going to be very similar to this wall right here, actually, I think. It's going to be the same color that it was, pretty much the same color. That's historically the correct color that it's supposed to be, and so we want to keep with it what it was originally. We're having a retreat in September to discuss our priorities and capital improvements. We're going to be doing some capital improvements to the inside of the theater, inside of the marquee room and the entryway to the theater, so that we can clean it up and fix it up some. And our debt is minimal. We still owe for the building, but we have a lot of equity in the building, and we're doing quite well financially as far as managing our money. We still need a lot of money for capital improvements, but as far as operating day-to-day, we are doing really well. Endurance Capital Committee presentation was given by Glenn Carnahan. He was invited by Larry Matz, who gave us an overview of how to plan an endurance event to help people through the process. They want to figure out a way to give people that come to the community or to the endurance committee kind of a synopsis of what they have to go through in order to set up an event. So Glenn was very helpful with that, but towards the end of the presentation, he told the endurance committee that they were not doing enough to help do the endurance events in Auburn. So the longtime members were a little upset about that, but they pointed him to the website and said, look and see what we've, you know, done. And they've done a lot. It's an amazing committee. They really have done a lot for the endurance events in this community. Today was Pioneer Community Energy Meeting. And since Bridget wasn't there, I'm her alternate. So we discussed the proposed budget, combining the Empower program with the Empower budget with the new budget for the JPA and all those little intricacies that you guys aren't. I had a lot of questions, but it was a really good meeting. And how to deal with regulatory changes. They have hired Sierra Business Council to keep up with all this regulatory legislation that's coming down the pike from the CPUC. So they pay them monthly to keep track of that and to give a report. And so we voted on some significant items that we thought they should monitor and allocated some funds for that. They're also looking for a building to lease. I hope it's in Auburn. That's what I told them. So that's the overall view. Thank you.
Hey, Cheryl, quick question on that. Do we know what date they're going to roll this out? What the start date is?
More than likely, it's going to be probably. We are having meetings every 2 weeks because we're trying to budget. We're going to be hiring. We need to find a place to be, and we need to hire employees and all that sort of thing. So it's going to be a few months yet, but they're already starting to buy energy, and that was another interesting thing. They're going to be buying power from NCPA and which is a very well-known utility electric energy sales group, but also PCWA from Middle Fork, and they're going to use 10% biomass. They can fulfill their requirements for biomass through our Middle Fork project, and that was an interesting presentation. So Anyway, if you guys ever get to come to a meeting, you should come because they're really interesting. It really is interesting.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, so.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lamb?
My committee's a met, so I'm good.
Okay. Councilman Kirby?
I gave my
Excellent. I'll be brief. We did have a SACOG board meeting, and the new executive director of SACOG, Mr. Corliss, is embarking on the civic lab concept, mostly centered around driverless cars and mobility and what that will do to our infrastructure, road infrastructures and systems. Interesting concept is probably not too far into the future here, but the idea of driverless cars. So I want to go to a concert with my wife downtown. We get in our car, it drives us down there. I don't want to pay the exorbitant cost for parking, so I send my car off to drive around until the concert's over and it comes back. It sounds crazy, but it's certainly a possible, possible concern and issue for us in the future, clogging up all of our minor streets and neighborhoods with these drones that are just driving around waiting for their masters to be picked up. So very interesting stuff. I'll continue to keep the council apprised as those civics labs progress. And we have EDC meeting Wednesday night.
A branding
meeting Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. And that is all I have this evening.
Matt, I just wanted to say that something that maybe, of course, somebody your age doesn't think about, but I went through the, my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle losing their driver's licenses. My aunt drove till she was 92. I finally had to get Nick Willick to try and take it away from her, but she was a danger. But to me, getting older, I mean, I look forward to this technology, really, mm-hmm. because at some point I'm not going to be able to drive, and I want to be able to have my car drive me, because my kids aren't going to come get me. So, I mean, I really think it's a wonderful thing.
So there are cities right now, West Sac in particular, along their waterfront. They're working on autonomous shuttle service, and you'll just get in when at the stop, and they'll drive you to the other end of the river walk, and that's next year. They're planning on rolling that out next year.
And just as a warning, I got my medical to fly today, so I'm back at it.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Above you.
Don't fly over my house, please.
All right. If we have nothing else, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Sally.